But Brandon, let's move on into our next topic. And we're going from 1-2-1, surprisingly good team, to another 2-1 team tied for the top of their division with the team that beat the Seattle Seahawks this past weekend in the Tennessee Titans. And we're talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars. And so far, the Jaguars on the season, they get a big win, 29-7 in the Texan game week 1. They lose to said Titans hugely, 37-16. They get a big win in London this past week, 44-7 over Joe Flacco and the Baltimore Ravens. I'm going to be just plain and simple. I'm just going to throw this out there. Should we be taking the how serious should we be taking the Jaguars right now? How serious should we take this team?
Well, see, that's the hard part, is because we saw what Blake Bortles did in the preseason, and everyone was like, okay, Blake Bortles is not good anymore. He may have to get cut. He may seriously be cut.
We see articles on the ESPN Jaguar page of every time there's a Lamar Jackson game, they go Jaguars quarterback watch. Basically, how did Lamar Jackson do?
Yeah. I mean, seriously. I mean, that's how bad it was. But Blake Bortles, so far this season, has thrown for a little less than 600 yards, 6 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions. He's been sacked twice in 3 games. The offensive line has looked pretty good for Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette, who has looked like the real deal.
Who I am happy I'm getting in fantasy. I just made a trade for him.
For Jacksonville. I mean, it's obviously a good move. I hope you didn't have to give up Gronk and Jordan Howard, though.
I did.
Yeah,
that's who I did. I gave up Gronk and, just so they know, I gave up Gronk and Howard for Fournette and Larry Fitzgerald. I needed a running back, man. Aside, can I have a quick aside?
Please.
The biggest mistake of my draft was drafting Christian McCaffrey so high. It's how we did the draft. It's a little bit different than a normal snake draft. We got hit with running back rounds early, and I took Christian McCaffrey way too high. But go ahead, Jaguars. Just a quick aside. I need to get off my chest.
Leonard Fournette has looked good. The offensive line has been good. Losing Allen Robinson to an ACL injury in game 1 on like the first pass to him, not good. But clearly you've had other people step up. Mercedes Lewis was relevant again for the first time since Byron Leftwich. I think that right now, really, there's not much to talk about offensively. It's all defense.
Yeah.
Their defense has been outstanding. Coming into the season, people were saying, watch out, don't sleep on the Jaguars' defense. They are going to be much better and much improved this year. And you know what people say? Okay.
Yeah, whatever. You're talking about Jacksonville, right?
I'm sure they won't, but that's cute. Oh my gosh. These guys, this unit is so good. They've been just terrorizing quarterbacks. Brian, what's his name? Tom Savage is still having nightmares.
Yeah.
Probably because of the concussion he suffered, but he is still having nightmares about this Jacksonville defense. Deshaun Watson got to meet the Jacksonville defense. Everybody on the Texans got to meet the Jacksonville defense pretty up close and personal because they were knocking them all down. It was a great game week 1 and a great statement game to start off the season for Jacksonville, and Doug Marrone couldn't have been any happier. And then week 2, you play a really good Tennessee Titan team in Tennessee. Correct? In Tennessee? Did they play it in Tennessee? Or
I
did they play it
believe
at
they
home?
did so. Let me double check. Yeah, no, that was
they
home.
played. They played in Jacksonville. Excuse me, they
the
played
only
in
road
Jacksonville.
game they have played is at Houston.
So they play that one at home, but still, it's the Titans.
Titans are tough.
Titans. I made my prediction this year. I predicted that Tennessee, I think, would go 12-4 and win the division. But Jacksonville could be right there trying to fight for him, for it. But then the biggest win to me so far has been the Week 3 win. That's been the biggest win to me because
this could be the kind of statement game that gets the season turning.
I said you made a statement game in week 1 playing the Texans and beating the Texans the way that you did. But the biggest game so far has been the game in London where you win 44-7 to a team in the Baltimore Ravens that had themselves defensively been terrorizing some teams. And then you only allow Joe Flacco to go 8 of 18 for 28 yards and 2 picks, and then he had to be removed from the game because of how piss poor he was playing. You don't allow anything to happen offensively for a unit that was able to get some things done, that was scoring some points, and then a defense that was so good went poof.
The one thing I want to mention, though, about that Titan game, and Jaguar fans might have already mentioned this, the thing the Titans did very well in that game, it was very hot that day in Jacksonville. So they did a great job, the Tennessee offense, wearing out that defense, just getting them to get so tired so that they can get some points on them and win 37-16. But I'm looking at the schedule for Jacksonville, and the big thing coming into this season, exactly what you said, the defense. I told Mark, is this finally the year where we look at this defense on paper and go, what we see on paper, is it going to be reflected on the field? Because they've got Donta Fowler Jr., they've got the linebackers, they've got Jalen Ramsey. They have, for the last 3 draft classes, drafted guys that were supposed to make differences. The only thing is, they get into camp, somebody would have gotten injured. This is the year so far. I mean, I'm looking at it. Yards per game, 3rd least behind Carolina and Pittsburgh. When we look at passing yards per game, they are giving up the least passing yards at only 124 per game. Rushing yards, they only give up 135. That is actually near the top, however, 28th in the league. And then points per game, they are giving up the 4th least points per game this season at 17. I look at the rest of their schedule just until the bye at week 8. They go on the road to play the Jets. Jet fans, I know you won a game. Congratulations, I was wrong. However, I was probably thinking the other New York team that is still 3-0.
Yeah,
however,
sure.
You're still going to Did
you say that's still 3-0? It's still 0-3.
It's 0-3. I'll give you this one for free from the picks. Jaguars are getting the win in New York this weekend. Then you play Pittsburgh. I know that's a road game, but it's an odd week, so you could really play up for that one. Then the Rams, that could be a loss. But then Indy, we don't know if Andrew Luck will be back by then. You could be going into the bye week 8 at what? That would be, 5-2? 5-2 going into the bye? That would be surreal for a Jacksonville Jaguar team.
So what I wanted to mention when you were talking about them going on the road in New York to play the Jets, this is the first time in 6 years that the Jaguars have been favored to win a road game. The first time in 6 years, and the
Jets are bad. They're just bad.
But they're favored as a 4.5-point favorite over the Jets in New York. And yeah, the Jets are bad, but they did win a game.
Let's be honest though, Jay Cutler has been known to gift divisional rivals games in the past.
No, I understand. I completely understand that. But the Jets that everyone say are so bad and we're going to win a game will probably end up winning 4 or 3. Yeah. Let's be honest.
Still
about
number 1 overall, Sam Darnold. You're going to New York.
I love it, but I think that the Jacksonville Jaguars, I think they have a really good opportunity to beat the Jets on the road because the Jets offense is just, they have an old timer in Matt Forte as their running back. They've got an old timer as Josh McCown as their quarterback.
Jermaine Kearse is the only guy catching balls.
Jermaine Kearse and Robbie Anderson. He caught a 75-yarder this past week, so not the only guy.
Try doing that against Jacksonville's defense.
But that's what I'm saying, is that you've got an offense that, for the most part, doesn't have a whole lot going for them. Jacksonville, I think, should be able to shut down that running game for the Jets pretty well because the Jets already don't use it that much because they're out of games so quickly. But that I think will be a win. So there's 3-1 for Jacksonville. Then you go on the road to take on the Steelers. However, the Steelers, people would say, well, the Steelers just lost to the Bears, and the Bears aren't that good of a team. But
it was on the road. Big Ben don't play well on the road.
Just going to say the same thing. Thanks for taking the words right out of my mouth. That's exactly true. Big Ben, his numbers, you look at them side by side of home and road, they're just so dramatically different.
Yep.
When he's on the road, he does not play well on the road, but you keep him at home in the Steel City. It's going to be tough, but I think it could still be a good game. And yes, certainly when it gets to that Colts game, no idea if Andrew Luck will be back. And if he's back, is he fully healthy? I mean, I don't know. I don't know if anybody knows.
Can I ask you a side question really quick?
Sure.
Just really quick, because I know that Mark and I have had this discussion off the podcast. When it comes to the Colts, and I know this is Jacksonville segment, we'll get back to Jacksonville in 2 seconds. Shut them down for the entire year, yes or no?
I can't answer that question because I don't truly know what his injury is, and I don't know how bad it is. I can't tell you yes or no because I don't know what the hell's wrong with the guy.
I was just asking because that's the one thing, looking at this Jacksonville schedule, I'll be honest, I look at it and I want to find losses. I do. I don't think they're. I don't think they're going to go 15-1.
This is just hilarious. This is the first time I think in years I've ever heard someone say for a Jacksonville team, "I want to find losses." They're usually
all losses, but I don't think they're going to go 15-1. I don't think they're going 14-2. I don't think they're going 13-3. They might go 3-13. They still can do that, but. I look at their schedule just to run down it. Like, the opponents that they have, not the toughest. They can get a win. Just bear with me for a second.
Sure.
Could get a win over the Jets. That's one. Pittsburgh, I'll give it to Pittsburgh because it's in Pittsburgh. The Rams could get a win over the Rams. However, I'll give it to the Rams. Then the Colts. Right now, Andrew Luck's not playing. So at this moment, giving it to the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Bengals haven't looked good. That's 3. The Chargers haven't played well. That's 4. The Browns haven't played well. Although I would like to give the Browns that game. They could win that game, could develop into something. I would still give it to Jacksonville right now.
Browns have played better.
They have played better.
They've played better.
The Cardinals, they can get a win. That's 6. They could beat the Colts again. Seattle, I'll give it to Seattle. They've already beaten the Texans. We'll see how that goes second time around. The Niners could be a win before losing to the Titans. Take those 9 wins I have right now, add the 2 that they already have. This could be an 11-5 football team.
It just doesn't sound right.
It doesn't sound right at all.
It just doesn't sound right. If you're 11-5 and Jacksonville, it doesn't sound right.
Hypothetically, this could be a 10-11 win team if everything falls into the right places. Mainly because of schedule alone. Only because of schedule alone. And then if you flip a game, like a Ram game, they get a win over the Titans late in Nashville. Not going to say it. They're not going 13-3. They are not going 13-3. But this team could be a 10-6 playoff team. They could. Just because of the defense.
This team could be a 9-7 possible playoff team. We just don't even know right now. And it's just so fun to really talk about this stuff when we haven't even reached the Thursday night football yet of week 4.
Yep.
But it's fun to talk about. But seriously, this Jacksonville team is so much improved from last year. I mean, truly, this defense is for real. And this defense is what's going to keep them in games because outside of that, Jacksonville, Blake Bortles, if he plays like he's kind of playing right now, Blake Bortles has looked actually fine. He's looked fine. I mean,
the only game he looked bad in was, if you're looking at the numbers, is the Tennessee game. He 1 touchdown, no INTs in the Houston game, 1 touchdown, 2 INTs in the Titan game, and then 4-0 touchdown to INT this past week in London.
And again, the 2 games that he did not throw a pick, they won.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
very similar to the quarterback we talked about in the last segment in Jared Goff.
Exactly. And I mean, I think that you're very, very right in terms of, by going on schedule alone. But then when you also factor in then their defense and their offense and everything like that, you look at a lot of these teams. You look at the Colts and how bad they've looked. You look at the Bengals, and I think we're just going to start to see the Bengals team that we probably should have been seeing from week 1. After this week, they play with the Packers. It's a tough loss for the Bengals after leading 21-7 to then lose in overtime.
Which I will say, what the most enjoyable part of that game was?
What?
Tony Romo on the call.
Oh, gosh.
I love
great.
having him in the broadcast.
He's great.
booth. I love it. I hope he doesn't go back to football. Just stay in the broadcast
Jim Nance
booth.
and Tony Romo. I love it. I love it. It's a really good duo. The Chargers. They've looked
Brandon's
bad.
like back to the schedule.
I'm sorry. I completely agree with you. But I was on a roll.
The Chargers are interesting though, because that could be a win for the Chargers, but I just don't see it at this point.
Look at how Phillip Rivers plays when he plays a good defense.
Not so good.
He poops himself. I mean, look at how he did against the Chiefs. He threw what, 4 interceptions?
Yeah, I think 3.
3, a fourth, but it got called incomplete. Yeah. But that's bad. That's bad. You're already killing yourself and taking yourself out of the game with 3 interceptions. The Browns, Deshaun Kaiser, I'm just saying already, he's going to gift you 2. He's going to gift you 2 interceptions.
The thing about that Brown game, it's so late in the season to where I want to hope that the Browns are better by that point. And maybe that's a game, maybe that's an interesting game that we watch. Maybe it's interesting. You know what I'm kind of hoping for at this point in the season? It's only after week 3. We get to week 17. Could you imagine if the Titan-Jacksonville game flexed a Sunday Night Football winner for the division? In Nashville, Sunday Night Football winner wins the AFC South.
That'd be interesting. That'd be a great game.
It could line up, especially because and the only reason I'm saying that is mainly because it's nothing that the Jacksonville defense is very good. The offense is Leonard Fournette and Blake Bortles. What are you going to get from him each week? But this schedule, this is probably one of the easiest schedules right now. After actually seeing football through 3 weeks, I would say this is one of the easiest schedules. And getting that win over the Ravens just made it easier. Because really going into that game, I know I picked them. I think Mark picked them. Ravens were the favorite to win that game in London. And they got the win against that Raven team. So that was a huge one. And that just makes this schedule easier because that's an extra win you're adding on. It's just pure gravy.
So I want to say really quickly, of the 4 teams in the AFC South, the Jacksonville Jaguars have the most points scored out of all those teams. And they have the least points against. 89 points for, 51 points against. The next closest is Tennessee. They've allowed 69 points. That's an 18-point differential. That's really great for Jacksonville.
I find it funny that they've, in their 2 wins, 1 touchdown. That's all the opponent could get. 1 touchdown. 7 points for Houston, 7 points for Baltimore. That's it. You score more than 7 points, you might be able to beat the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's what I'm looking at through 3 weeks.
It's actually pretty refreshing to be able to talk about Jacksonville and not be, pouring crap on them because they're 0-3 through the first 3 weeks and they've only scored 20 points or something like that. So it's really refreshing to see a team that's been down for so long kind of start to get up, finally get up to a knee, and they're getting there. They're getting up to a standing position to be what I think that we could probably even start to say as a strong team in the AFC South.
Yeah, and I mean the one thing I want to look at is, because you mentioned it's refreshing to, this is exactly like I mentioned, I think either last week or the week before, when Mark and I were talking of, like, I mentioned my dad, and it was about the Patriots, where my dad doesn't like the Patriots, mainly because of, he's a guy where it's like, he doesn't want to see the Patriots win, because he's like, let's get somebody else in there. Let's get somebody new. It's boring to see the same team win the Super Bowl every single year. And the last time I remember in my childhood, of course there was in my high school years where Jacksonville went to the playoffs in 2005 and 2007. But the last time, and I remember this memory vividly in my head for some reason. My dad and I were playing the Pokemon Monopoly in my room one Sunday. And I think it might have been either the 99 or the 98 season because Jacksonville was really good. Like, that was the last time I remember Jacksonville 11-5, 14-2, going to the playoffs. Like that 99 year, they beat the Dolphins 62-7 in the first round, the divisional playoff round. of the wild card game before. I think it was that 99 year because that was the first Super Bowl I'd ever watched. That was the Titan Rams Super Bowl, the first one I've ever actually gone to a party and remember watching. Like, that was my first memory of the Jaguars. The Jaguars were good when I started watching football as a kid, and then they kind of just fell off the map.
Yeah. I think that, like I said, it's good to see that the Jacksonville Jaguars are having this success, especially to start the season. And I mean, you've played two divisional foes already. You just kill the Texans, and then the Titans. Honestly, they weren't really that competitive. They scored 16 points. They allowed 37. The Titans are a really, really good football team. So let's not try and say, well, Jacksonville's only good when they're playing lesser teams. That's not true. The Titans are really good. The Ravens can be seen as a team that could be possibly a favorite.
I thought the Ravens were going to easily win that game
for the North. But I think that the Ravens, who can go ahead and do all the blame they want on, well, we weren't really in it because of London and the jet lag and all. Well, the Jaguars went through the same thing. Yeah. So it was just a complete demolishing by Jacksonville, who may want to just permanently have a team in London.
Yeah, well, and that's the big question of are the Jaguars, like, there was one article I read where are the Jaguars primed for like a 2020 or a 2022 move to London? Like, will they be the London Jaguars by 2022? And I was like, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. But this is where you guys come in. I want to flip it on to you guys. Let us know down below. What do you guys think? How seriously should we be taking Jacksonville? And could they be an 11 win team, 10 win team? Could they? Could they have won the division? Let us know down below what you guys think in the comment section.